Welcome to the 1976 Spruce Meadows Masters, and this afternoon we'll be featuring highlights of the $10,000 Fleischmann's Grand Prix. And with me to provide the expert color commentary, Hans Eisenbart from West German Television. Hans, a man well versed in the equestrian sports, having covered it for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland at the 1976 Montreal Olympics.
Yes, I did it for the German-speaking countries in Europe. And now I will, if you trust me, try to do it in English here in Spruce Meadows.
Hans, we'll trust you. How long have you been involved in the sport?
A little bit more than 25 years now.
No? Okay. Okay, the first rider in the second round of the Fleischmann's Grand Prix, victorious Bo Mearns aboard the Flying Nun.
While the first part of the course, the first round, was 600 meters long, the second round is only 433 meters long. There have been 17 fences in the first round. The horses have done that already.
The time limit in this round is 63 seconds. Anything over 63 and they accrue time faults.
And the Flying Nun with Bo Mearns had 8 faults, 89.2 seconds in the first round. Penalty points and time of the second round will be added to that.
At the age of 31, Bo is one of Canada's veteran riders. And I might mention she won the Damon International Grand Prix right here at Spruce Meadows in June. Two fences down for Bo Mearns and a 1/4 time fault. That, along with her first round total, gives her 20 1/4 after 2 rounds. The leading Canadian rider at the Spruce Meadows Masters is Michel Vaillancourt. Michel, of course, well known as a silver medalist at the Montreal Games. And Michel is riding UFO in this, the second round of the Fleischmann's Grand Prix. UFO, an impressive horse, a bronze medal winner in the Pan Am Games of 1975, and is placed in all major Grand Prix in Canada in 75 and 76.
Just the name is a little bit peculiar to me. An unidentified flying object will be easily identified as UFO with Michel Vaillancourt. It's the second time I see Michel Vaillancourt since the Olympics. And I'm very impressed with his kind and style of riding. It is said that a jumping course is negotiated successfully by riding between the fences. With fences as big as these fences are, you have to bring the horse to the exact spot for the takeoff, for the horse being able to make the jump. Beautiful round.
One fence down for Michel Vaillancourt in this round. At this combination, along with a 1/4 time fault for a 2-round total of 12 1/4. We'll be back with more of the Spruce Meadows Masters in a moment. A very interesting young man is our next rider, Graham Thomas, a former member of the New Zealand Olympic team, and at 29 years of age is now one of the veterans from the United States, and he's aboard Hickory Hill in this second round.
Hickory Hill had 2 fences down in the first round, 8 faults, 80.4 seconds. It's a really big course of the international type. And the beautiful place here at Spruce Meadows, I'm very impressed with, could easily stage a big international show also with European teams, which I would wish to happen in Canada.
It's events such as the Spruce Meadows which give Western Canada that needed publicity around the world, and especially here in Canada.
The Spruce Meadows fence went down.
Graham Thomas doubling his first round performance with 16 faults, no time faults, and a total of 24, and that's good for third place at the moment behind Victoria's Beau Merz. Calgary's Frank Salinger, the next rider, aboard Dark Dove. Dark Dove, an impressive horse in '76 with the Champion Open jumper at Moose Jaw and Regina, second in the Rothmans Grand Prix of Regina, first in the Rothmans Grand Prix of Brandon, and the reserve champion open jumper at the Alberta Light Horse Show this year. I asked Frank about the problem of controlling Dark Dove.
Well, Dark Dove's a horse that's biggest problem is being too eager. You just have to steady her back just enough to make her manage the course in not such a big hurry.
I don't know, you're one of the few people that can ride the horse.
Well, I'm one of the few people that's tried. I don't know about who can ride it and who can't yet.
One of the few people with the courage to do it.
Well, courage. I have faith in the horse. I know she can do the jumping if I can get her to the right spot.
Very speedy into the combination.
Excellent ride. 4 faults for Frank Salinger in the second round for a total of 12, and Frank Salinger is the new leader. Another member of our Olympic team is our next rider, John Simpson of Korwin. John aboard his big quarter horse Texas, and Texas an impressive record this year, second at the Man in His World Grand Prix. He was second at the Atco Jumper Stakes in Calgary here in June, and was third at Orangeville.
We've heard a lot about that horse, Mike, about Texas, and we were a little bit amazed not to see him in Montreal. So I was looking forward very much to see Texas here with John Simpson in the saddle.
Speaking with John since the Olympics, he was very disappointed that he was kept on the sidelines, so he has a lot to prove here this afternoon.
Texas seems to be a horse who does a lot out of his hind quarters. He has something like a steel spring in his hind legs and can push off the ground very energetically. Right now you can see it very clearly. A short turn on the upright poles. Just a short check. Another upright. Very careful. 4 3/4 faults in the first round for Texas. And now, good round.
A good round. A clear round, but a time
fault.
That was Texas.
No jumping faults in this round. However, that half-time fault gives him 5 1/4 after 2 rounds. So John Simpson is our new leader. And that half-time fault is very indicative of John's deliberate style of riding.
5 1/4 faults on the 2 rounds and the DD4 so far.
My style of riding is a very positive thing. I ride on rather quickly usually. I have a definite plan when I go in the ring, and I keep that in mind, and my horse has a long stride, and I do it a very definite way.
Your courses are obviously well-paced, and you are a deliberate rider.
Yes, very. The horse has to go on, and he can pop a few if he has to, but that's one of the things that makes him as good as he is.
Our next competitor, Diane Grodd of California,
Godfather also
aboard a horse with a very famous name, the Godfather. And the Godfather has been very impressive this year on the West Coast of the United States.
Also with 4 3/4 faults in the first round, 93.5 seconds.
I don't believe you'll find a smaller rider than Diane, and she is a veteran.
We have a very small rider in Europe who is Hugo Simon of Austria, who was 4th in the 1972 Olympics. He is very small and he has very short legs, and it happens sometimes that he flies high up in the air, and he keeps telling us, well, the main point is that you come down where the horse is. But she has a strong grip on the horse's sides, flanks, and she can ride. Really, you can see if something happens like this, how she carries on, how she pushes and puts impulse into her horse. That makes a good rider.
Diane has been riding for 28 of her 31 years.
You can see that she's very experienced.
To her credit, she was the only woman money winner in the 10th American Gold Cup back in 1973.
And she's doing a good job here too.
4 jumping faults and a quarter time fault for Diane Grodd and the Godfather, for a total of 9 after 2 rounds, and thus far second place behind John Simpson. Our next horse needs no introduction. It's Branch County, and it was the horse on which Michel Vaillancourt won his silver medal in the Montreal Games this year.
The sash shows that he's the leading rider in a special competition, Mike.
He is the leading Canadian rider at this Spruce Meadows Masters. The winner, of course, will receive a Chrysler automobile for 1 year. Up until today, Frank Salinger of Calgary was leading, but Michel took that over late yesterday.
It can change, of course, from day to day, even from competition to competition, because there's very strong competition here in Spruce Meadows. He takes care on that upright poles, makes a sharp turn to bring the horse right into the line of the fence. Beautiful and careful jumping. Well done.
Of course, Branch County's record from a broken down racing horse to a champion jumper. A clear round for Michel Vaillancourt, showing his silver medal winning style with Branch County. That, along with a 4.5 fault first round, gives him 4.5 total after 2, and we have a brand new leader. We'll be back with more of the Spruce Meadows Masters after this. Let's recap our standings to this point. Currently in first place, Michel Vaillancourt in Branch County with 4.5 faults. John Simpson in Texas in second place with 5.25, and Diane Grodd of California aboard the Godfather third with 9 faults. We have 3 riders left with a chance of catching Michel Vaillancourt, each with 4 faults. Frank Salinger aboard Country Rose, Linda Allen of Hollister, California aboard Ico, and Hornby, Ontario's Jimmy Day and Simpatico. Frank Salinger back again, this time aboard Country Rose. And Country Rose, a completely different horse than Dark Dove.
He tries to be careful. Very short strides, but very energetic strides before the jumps. He not just simply pulls the reins, but he pushes at the same time, bringing the horse to the necessary tension to make an energetic takeoff before the jumps. That pull was gone.
Frank's best performance this year aboard Country Rose was a first in the Open Jumper Stakes up in Edmonton.
Now he has to force his horse back, being a little bit too fast. And the last treble. Just 4 points out of the first round. Now, another fun start.
8 jumping faults and 1 quarter time fault for Country Rose for a 2-round total of 12.25. We have 2 riders left in this competition, Linda Allen and Jimmy Day. This is our first look at Linda Allen from Hollister, California. At 30 years of age, she is a veteran of the American riding scene. She was a leading rider at Del Mar in California this year, and also the champion open jumper, intermediate jumper, and preliminary jumper at Northlands in Edmonton.
And she has a beautiful way of riding her horses. She has them very lightly on the rein. She doesn't pull too much, but she finds the correct spot of takeoff almost every time. Now she's doing a little bit of checking. A dangerous upright, very hard to calculate for the horse because of the big wide board and the water jump after that.
The horse, of course, Iko, a 14-year-old brown thoroughbred, 16-3.
Only one fence down in the first round. Just 4 penalty points. So she picked up speed there, but she's not quite in line for the last treble. But she made it. No, 1 pole gone.
Almost a remarkable recovery.
Yeah. Very remarkable indeed.
So Linda Allen matches her first round performance with 4 faults for a 2-round total of 8, and that's good for 3rd place at the moment. We've got 1 rider left with a chance to catch Michel Vaillancourt, and that's Hornby's Jimmy Day. He's up next.
And 4 faults on this round. 3, total of 8 on the 2 rounds. The last horse of the 2nd round is number 214. Simpatico, bid by James D. Day, Hornby, Ontario.
The last horse in this 2nd round, no stranger to the Canadian equestrian scene, or in fact the international scene. It's Simpatico and Jim Day of Hornby.
No time faults to win this competition.
When we came to Montreal from Europe, we were told that Simpatico was the secret weapon of Canada with Jimmy Day in the saddle, especially for the single competition. It didn't turn out that way quite. But Simpatico is one of the most experienced horses in this part of the world, has done quite a lot under American riders in the United States. Just 4 points in the first round. Best performance so far is 4.5 points out of 2 rounds. Michel Vaillancourt with Branch County. He had a fault there. So it's quite clear. Michel Vaillancourt is the winner.
Michel Vaillancourt, the leading Canadian rider. This undoubtedly will assure him of being the Canadian rider of the Spruce Meadows Masters.
Jimmy Day will be a little bit angry. A 2nd pole gone. That's 8 faults.
Jimmy Day with 8 faults in this round for a 2-round total of 12. So our winner overall, Michel Vaillancourt of Hudson, Quebec, who finished 2 rounds with just 4.5 faults. Michel, except for 3/4 of a time fault, we would have had an ideal jump-off situation between yourself, Branch County, John Simpson, and Texas.
Right. The time was a little too short in this Grand Prix. Actually, I don't want to put the faults on the course design or anything, but it was a little tight. Like even myself, I was the 2nd horse in the 1st round coming in, and I went regular Grand Prix speed. I didn't lose any time anywhere. I was, galloping along, and I still got a 1/4 time fault myself. Then John came back and picked up 3/4 time fault. I think it was a little mistake of pacing that, that day. It was just, you had to be careful about it. But like what I said before, it just made every rider go a little too fast, which occurred a lot of mistakes.
The top 5 finishers at the Fleischmann's Grand Prix. We had a tie for 5th between Jim Day of Hornby, Ontario, and Calgary's Frank Salinger. 4th place went to Diane Grodd of California. 3rd place to Linda Allen, another Californian aboard Iko. Linda had 8 faults. 2nd place went to John Simpson of Korwin, Alberta, aboard Texas with 5.25 faults. And 1st place, of course, Michel Vaillancourt of Hudson, Quebec, silver medal winner at the Montreal Games aboard Branch County with 4.5 faults. Coming up next, the final round of an exciting new concept in show jumping, head-to-head competition. While it's been used in Europe for a number of years, Spruce Meadows held the first jump of its kind in Canada this past spring at the International Show. 2 riders enter the course together, and then the toss of a coin decides who jumps first. The object, to jump a better round than your opponent in order to advance in the knockout. As I mentioned, we're into the final round. Hornby, Ontario's Jim Day is set to meet Tom White of Williams Lake, BC for the Spruce Meadows Tankard. We're back with the final round of the Spruce Meadows Tankard between Tom White of Williams Lake, BC, and Jim Day of Hornby. Jimmy Day is first. There's an advantage to that.
Because the rider who's going first has to decide whether he tries to be fast with a risk of a fault of a fence down, or takes it more conservative, more slowly, to be on the safe side.
Right now, Tom White is sitting back watching Jim Day and plotting his strategy, no doubt.
This is a rather new competition. In Europe, it has been done since 3 or 4 years, and I think this spring, Mike, it has been invented for Canada.
For the first time in Canada at the Spruce Meadows International in June, and this will be the second time that Canadians have seen this particular event.
But it makes it, of course, very exciting to the public.
Another clear round for the Phantom at a time of 42.7.
So Jimmy Day clear for the second time. He was clear in the semifinals. Tom White is next, and you can bet the pressure's on.
And remember the stockbroker on his second round at the fastest time of the day so far with 39.6 seconds.
He was very fast in the last round indeed, so he could be able to beat the time of Jimmy Day. The question is, can he beat the time and stay clear? The only thing he can do is run the risk and race down the course. There it is gone.
So Jim Day is the winner of the Spruce Meadows Tankard. But Tom White, like a true sportsman, completes the course, and of course the crowd really appreciates that. As I mentioned earlier, Tom White, of course, had the pressure on because Jimmy Day went first, and it's a great advantage to go first in this type of competition. A true sportsman, Tom White. This win in the Tankard is gratifying for Jim Day because he hasn't had too much success in the first 2 days of competition.
Number 215, the Phantom ridden by Jim Day of Hornby, Ontario. And in just a very few minutes, we'll have the final ribbon presentation.
You've been watching highlights of the first 2 days of the 1976 Spruce Meadows Masters. And on behalf of Hans Eisenbart, this is Mike Adams bidding you a pleasant good afternoon from Calgary.